So, welcome everyone. I am very, very happy to meet you all here in this virtual environment. It is for the first time that I am going to do this kind of webinar in English. I've tried in one of my previous projects, and when I wanted to share my outputs to do this, and I did in my native language, not really native, but in Czech. But this time I decided to share this information also with the other partners from abroad, because I believe there is so much to share. We have created so many good things in our projects, in our work, in our organizations, and it will be a big shame to keep it secret from each other. I decided to share it instead and to make it public as much as possible so that we influence the impact that is expected from our work. So I would like to welcome everybody whom I already have met before. I can see many of my previous project partners here interested in my work, but I also can see many new faces of the people who came from who saw my advertisement probably on Facebook, which was actually for the first time that I tried to address the European teachers from all countries in Europe and invited them to this seminar. So I can see you are coming from various countries, and some people whom I do not met before, whom I have not met before. I would like to welcome, especially as a newcomers, to our team and to our work, because you are going to learn something about what we do in our teams and what actually we have here for you to share in your work. I assume everybody who is here works in the education sector, and you are either students or you are teachers of various courses and various subjects in your schools, in your organizations. So this seminar shouldn't be very long, because it is only about a couple of tiny results from one project that is linked to circular economy. But before we start with the actual presentation, I would like to ask you then my colleague Jan Duda. You can see him here among the faces on the screen. He's
Hello.
my new colleague who helps me a lot with the technical stuff, because we are running so many projects that it has reached my capacity, and I need fresh blood in the company. So Jan is the one who deals with the technical stuff about preparation of presentations, turning them into the applications, and also some translational stuff. So basically, the content which I'm going to present you today is created more or less by by me or my team, my professional team. But the technical things, the turning the content into the application that I'm going to present, the application which is called Articulate Rise, is actually output and work of my colleague Jan. So this is for the first time that we are going to present it to our project partners, because it is for the first time that we have used it and that we have prepared outputs that are really worth sharing. So this is basically what we are going to talk about today. My colleague will share a link to the evaluation form in the chat box. So please, everyone who is present here, be so kind and fill this this is very, very, very short form, but it is a sort of, how to say, a proof that you have been here and you visited this presentation, because I need to submit it to our national agency as a proof that this seminar has happened. So back to the topic, closing the loop along with the youth. This is the title of the project. So what we are going to tell you within these 40-45 minutes to come. We can continue with the presentation. What will you learn today? I would like to tell you very briefly why we have chosen this topic and why this topic has become the center of our work in this project. Then I will talk very briefly about who we are and what we do, how we met, and what are our plans. And then I would like to present, this will be the core of the presentation, which tools we have developed for you and want to share with you now. And then probably you will be more interested into the topics linked to how to implement these two tools that I'm going to present into your lessons. So let's continue. Now I'm going to switch to my presentation and Honza will present his screen, share his screen. So why this topic? This is the question that I promised to tell you. You all probably know that there are several environmental issues that are currently resonating in the society. It is something about global warming. It is something about mass extinction of the life on the planet. This is air, water, or soil pollution, and stuff linked to general environment. It is especially the young people who are the most affected by all this situation and these talks. You probably know Greta, who has become someone very visible, and she sticks out from all the young generation as someone who is a light bringer, let's say, in these things, and she is really a very important person among young people, and she's doing important stuff. Why is it? Young people are sensitive about this stuff because this is them who are at the beginning of their lives, and they are going to live here on the planet for the next, who knows, 70 or more years. And they really need to do all the activities to save the planet and to not to just sit and wait, but to actually do something. They are perceiving the situation very differently from the adult ones. And protecting the planet has become a so-called transversal priority. You may notice that it has become even one of the priorities of European Union in all actions, because it goes across all sectors. Everything needs to be adapted to these changes that are happening currently. Because there is no planet B. This is also something that we already have heard. There is no planet B, and we have nowhere to go if we destroy the planet. And children, as I said, perceive this more urgently than adults. So that is actually the reason why I have invited teachers to this seminar, but also the students, or students, if they are not present here currently, they should be the very final beneficiary of this output through you, through their teachers, who will represent a sort of amplifier to of this information to them, of this knowledge to them, or of these tools to them. Let's have a look at the next picture, next slide. I wonder if you ever seen this picture, or you know what it is. I'm not going to have you answer this to me here publicly, but what it represents, it is a map of Earth, obviously you can see. And there are these circles. These circles are places where the sea currents meet and create so-called, I hope in English it is called like gyres. It is a huge, huge gyre where all the sea streams bring every trash, every rubbish, every waste that has been thrown into the sea water. And all this waste is being accumulated at one place. Well, not at one. You can see those circles are there, at least 5, and they over years have reached enormous size. The biggest one, the one in the North Pacific, in the center of this picture, is the biggest one, and it has created one huge island that is 6,000 kilometers long, which is maybe the size 4 times bigger than the entire Germany is. Sometimes we use this comparison to make it closer to people, just to understand the size of the trash that we have thrown into seawater. And this is actually the moment where we in our team started thinking that it is not possible to just not doing anything, and us being educators not contribute to this process of sharing information and changing the mindset of the young generation somehow. So we have come together and we decided to start thinking about what to do. If we have a look at the next picture, here we also can see a man on his ship floating on top of this island of rubbish, trying to simply get out of it somehow, but this is something we people are really responsible for. And as I said, this is the moment where our little partnership started to think if there are any measures within European policy that we could reflect in our work and according with it start working on some outputs that could help teachers in their work and deliver more up-to-date and more precise information to the young generation. On the next slide you can see, but just very briefly, the little consortium we worked together with. It was actually very, very professional team where, apart from our little organization, ProEduca, which is represented by me or us with my colleague over here, we are a little association of enthusiastic teachers in Czech Republic. We also had included here a university from Turkey. We have included a training organization from Italy and bit management from Austria, who was actually a coordinator of the project. So it was not us including them, but it was them including the 3 of us, because they set up the consortium and they thought in this combination of networks we would produce the desired outputs. So what we did on the next slide, where I apologize a little bit because here I made a mistake and I forgot to change this little picture for English version, but it doesn't really make much difference. I will explain. What is the circular economy? Circular economy simply claims that nothing is waste. Everything what has once been put into the production circle is a resource, and it should stay in that circle, in that loop, and never leave it in a form of any kind of waste. That is the circular economy principle. You can see on this little picture just a little comparison between the linear, which is current way of economy, and the circular. In the linear you can see one line. We start with the resources or raw material through production, distribution, consumption, and then there is some waste. So we put materials inside and there is a huge pile of waste that goes into the landfill somewhere. But in the opposite, the circular economy talks about inserting some special elements into this line, and you can see in that loop, in that circular picture, that we have inserted the orange segment which says design. And design is something very, very important to have included in in a production circle. Simply it expects the designers to design the waste out already in the design phase from the production. So they already know that there will be no trash in the end, and there will be no waste that goes to landfill, but that if there is something considered waste, that will, after some further processes, come back to the loop, to the circle, and continue being a raw material again, or a resource again. Of course, sometimes there could be a little like residual waste, but it shouldn't be at that size as it has been until now. So, and now I'm coming directly to these products I want to, or these tools that I want to share with you and tell you about. You probably understood from my previous speech that we are going to talk about some tools that can be used for education, like an educational tools. Basically, this tool is a sort of training material that could be used either by teacher or by the student, or in a proper combination of these two groups. But before we started developing this training material, we understood that first of all we need to be able to measure it, because we need to know what young generation needs and how far would they come during studying our materials, or attending our courses, or during their any kind of education. Simply we need to know where we stand and how we develop. And for this we decided to develop sort of index. We call it Circular Behavior Index, and this index is something that tells you where you stand on the scale from 0 to 100. 100 is the best behavior, meaning you do everything in line with the principles of circular economy. And the lower is the index, the more you need to change on your lifestyle to come closer to the ideal behavior. So first we developed this index. The work has been, or was, quite difficult. I talk about it very briefly now, but the process was real science. There is a real science and statistics behind it. We had interviewed plenty of students. The sample was huge. It was around over 1,000 young people answering our questions. And it was the work of the university experts team, who after several testings and evaluations of this index came up with a formula that could actually tell you how and where you stand. For the user, this index is very simple, because it basically means that you will enter a little square window where you will just state how much you agree or disagree with with the statements. There are 43 statements in the last final list of the evaluation, and when you go through this and click on the statement of your choice, then you will know where you stand in the circular behavior, and most probably it will tell you that you need to study a lot to reach the desired level. And now on the second slide of this, the next slide, comes the digital training materials thing. This is a set of training materials that reflect the current need that we measured by the index among the young people, but of course it is built on the 5 basic pillars that create the circular economy. So it is basically a difference between the linear economy and the circular economy. There is a policy and the frameworks that exist in society, especially in the European Union. Then we talk a lot about strategies of circular economy, and most of all, we eventually come to the circular design I talked about already. So these basic pillars are the main content of our training program. But what I am the proudest about in this training material is the form in which we are going to deliver it, because we have processed it into a form that is a true added value when it comes to teaching young people or young people learning some stuff, because they are not just boring pages of texts that we are used to in our textbooks, or just the very brief presentations without any better context between the pictures and infographics and stuff. We decided to combine this and create very interesting and very interactive visualization and use that leads to a sort of micro-learning. And for this we have used the application that is called Articulate Rice, and it enabled us to turn everything that we have created, the content of the training, to turn into the micro-learning small chunks of training material that is so popular and has such a big impact on young people. It is a form that young people really interact well with. So instead of presentations, there are stories. Instead of long text, there are videos, there are pictures in small pieces of learning matter, as I already said, because they are much better digestible, absorbable, I mean, by young people when they come in a small amounts, not in a huge lessons. But of course, the lessons can be used together as one, but also as these little pieces of topics that you can use as teachers for any kind of teaching in your courses or in your lessons that you have in your subjects. All of these topics have been complemented by pictures or pictograms. We also complemented them by plenty of external links with interesting content that hasn't been inserted into the training itself, but we understand it as a very important part of the topic. So we strongly suggest to use those links and read those pages or listen to those videos, watch those videos, listen to those podcasts and stuff like that, to be able to follow the entire entire content and understand entire content of these training materials. And where can you find all this? We can go on the next slide. All this has been gathered on the web platform. Basically, it is a web page that talks more about the project, but part of it is dedicated to share the results. And here you can find not only the information about the project, as I already mentioned, but there is a direct access also to the training materials, and you can also find many more like manuals for the trainers, manual for teachers, for students. You can also find the space where you can calculate your index and test yourself. go through all these 43 questions. And also there is a space for sharing events, opportunities, or other stuff. We would like to keep this platform for a longer time and continue in this work further, because we have started in this consortium and we would like to keep on developing and have some follow-up projects that could contribute to the output already created. On the next page there is just a little bit more about what exactly is inside, which I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes, but this is just a presentation, general one. Apart from the 5 modules that you can see on the right side of this slide, on the left side you can see 2 guides. So these 2 guides are, one is for teachers or trainers, and one is for learners, and it will guide you through the entire content. I mean, it tells you how to work with all these materials, where to look up this kind of information. It gives you instruction what this kind of information means and how to use it, and simply how to use the entire training. But for the teachers, it also contains a couple of very important informations, and this information tells you about how to work with the students when you have the group session, because we decided to have this training in a blended form, which means there is a part of it prepared as e-learning, either on computer or, in case of articularized version, also in mobiles or tablets. But of course we suggest that teachers always have some common sessions together in a group and lead some talks and discussions to promote the idea, to keep to raise more questions and to keep discussions and dialogue among the people of the group. So in this guide for trainers you will find much more of this content you can do during the sessions with your students. If we go further on the very final slide, it will just sum up what exactly is inside the training. It contains 18 units divided into 5 modules, as I said. In the end of each module you can find one longer quiz. We call it quiz, but it is sort of test or like a feedback material where students or those who go through the training material can test how good or not good they are in absorbing of the training matter. And as I said, the application itself is fully responsive, so it doesn't really matter if you go through the training on computer or you use the tablet or you use the smartphone. It always works perfect, and you can access it through the project web page. Here in this presentation that I can also share with you later on, we can click just on the link here and go directly to the platform that I'm going to show you in detail how it actually works. So here, this is the landing page. You can choose 4, I can see, other languages. There is German, there is Turkish, there is Italian, and there is Czech language and original English version. So in these 5 languages you can find the entire content of the web page, but also of the training itself. Everything has been translated into these 5 languages. So here you can see we welcome you on the OER platform. We call it OER platform as an open educational resources because we haven't come up with a better name for it, but probably we will in time. If you are a newcomer, you can see the guide here. You can click directly on the guide if you want. But if you want to go directly to the find modules, you can find them here. There are 5 sections, module 1 to module 5, each with a little description. And if you go further down to this page, there is also, again, these 2 guides, and in the bottom of the page you can see here this calculator of your clay score. We call it clay score, but more or less it is a calculator that calculates the index for you to know how good you are. If you click on the green button here, the box opens and you can start evaluating yourself. So if you start here, you see the statement and you just state how much you agree or disagree with it. And you go through 43 questions, and in the end you get this number that tells you if you how and where you stand on this. For now, it only talks about the number. It gives you just the number, so you can estimate your position in the range from 0 to 100. But further, we are going probably to elaborate it a little bit more and have more suggestions on what exactly you could do to develop your skills, to develop your competencies, or to gain some more knowledge, more targeted to your actual answers. So let's have a look maybe at one of the modules or one of the lessons, just to let you see how this articulate race application works and how truly nice it is for a learner. If we click on module 1, it opens and it will show us, we are still on the page, on the project web page. It shows us that the first module has 1, 2, 3 units in it. And if you decide to study and go into one of these units, just click on it. And the link will bring you directly to this application. You can see in the top, we are in the RISE articulate comp now, and this is the environment, how the application, the content processed in the application looks like on the screen of the real computer. We start a course, yes, by clicking on this white button. We start a course. If you go to the left, you can see these three lines, little lines. If you open it, this sidebar shows you the exact content of the lesson. So you just can click among the topics and parts. But if you want to go through everything, you just start in the main window and go through everything. So now you can see we are going to work with these keywords and topics in this unit. Here underneath are learning outcomes. The student, just to make it a little bit more interesting for them, we have them click on these pictures or these pictograms to learn about the outcomes a little bit more, to understand what they are going to do, and then we can continue further. You click on continue, and now we are going to talk about these about the content. We have decided to make all the content divided into several different kinds of pages. We can see that probably this red dot page means that it is the basic content or the most important core content of the topic. And further you will see blue dots that tell us more, that lead us more deeply into the topic, or yellow dots that lead us into the exercising of the content. So here is the content of the first topic that is obviously linked to the waste. Here are some pictures. If you click on them, Pictures are, of course, they are related to the content that is written on the other side of the card, but you can turn them around and read from both sides and use it as simply a flashcard to learn from. Then we can continue. There is more. Here is the first blue topic, and blue topic means that we are going deeper into the specific things about the linear or circular economy. Here we go further. Again, some images that are that carry educative content from the other side. Here underneath the pictures you can see some quote of important people. We have added as many quotes as was possible because we consider them important for motivation and stimulation of the students to understand the entire context. If we continue further, you can see we are starting recycling topic. We talk more about principles and the basics of the recycling. Here we can see some explanation about several different forms of recycling or of the behavior in the economy. This is the linear that we already talked about. This is the recycling economy, where we recycle a little portion of the waste, and then circular economy, where there is nothing considered a waste, as I already explained. Further, you can see details about how the flow of material works in circular economy, and so on. So we go through all the educational content that is inside this first module. What I want to show you are some specifics of the rice articulate. Let's go further. On this page we can see some links that we recommend to you or to learners to go through and to complement their lessons by. We can continue. All of these links lead to some interesting stuff. They are either videos, or they are TED Talks, they are cartoons or books, or any kind of important or interesting stuff. They can be considered important for the learning. When the learner has come through, they can tick. You have seen my colleague did it. They tick in the list that it has been completed, and they can continue further. Now another section, let's say topic. We can go further because I'm not going to go through the content itself, but just want to show you some specifics of how this visualization works. Especially in this first module we used mostly the cards, but there are some more interactive pictures where you can choose from the picture, or here in this section here we can see another kind of interactive content. Over here under the particular letters you can see there is some description of what it means and how it is linked with the actual content. So, and on mobile, what I wanted to say, on mobile it looks very users friendly, because all this information comes in these little screens, little windows, little boxes, let's say, and students can come and leave as often as they want, because these little pieces of information are always closed, and he gets at least a little piece of information once in a time, which makes him progress in a efficient way. So let's go further. And here again we have some surfing page where we go through some recommended links. We do not have to stop here. Let's continue. And one of the last pages is the review page. You can see the yellow dot here. Yellow dot means that it is exercise time, and we have several kind of exercises here. We can either enter the missing word in here, or we can join the paragraphs that have been broken, so you need to find the following continuation of one sentence from the list of the other sentences. Simply you need to understand the context to be able to do this. Or you have two piles of cards, or you have one pile of cards, and you divide the cards with several statements into one pile that says no or agree, or that's on the other one that says yes or disagree. Simply you divide the pile of cards. Or many other ways of exercising. We have entered as many as the articulate rice let us. Let's continue here. And the last page of this is the key takeaways, which basically means that we sum up the most important ideas and information that we have taken from this lesson, and then we read a little bit about what is there for us in the following lesson. So you can then continue to choose the lesson that continues after this one. These lessons are not linked together, so after you finish Unit 1, you need to go back to the project page and choose another unit that you want to continue with. You do not go directly from Unit 1 to Unit 2, and so there are 18 units of this kind, and you can choose one by one whichever you want according to the content. And the content is the overview of the entire content is on the project page over here that you can see. So maybe you would like to see how the guide for teachers looks like. I will show you. Let's look inside this document. You can see it contains a lot of information, things about how this training course works, but probably the most important thing for you to see is the set of tasks that we have prepared here for you, that you can use during your lessons, apart from those that are inside the application. You can use also some more. And there is a set of individual tasks. If we go to page 9, we can see for each module divided into each unit, there is a set of questions or set of exercises that we could not enter into articulate rice application because either there was no proper environment for it, or it requires some thinking, some reading, some writing, or some drawing. So we decided to put all these exercises into separate material like this, and you can give it to your learners maybe as homework or of the project, or as a I don't know, individual work of any kind. Simply it cannot be done in the application because it requires a little bit more effort or more time, and it doesn't represent a small chunk of work, but it needs some more focus. You can see that we have collected approximately 1 page of these exercises per each module. And if we go further, we have also collected a set of questions or topics that could be used also in the group work. Because as you probably noticed, we recommended you to keep this not only as a pure e-learning, because pure e-learning for very young students never works 100% well. It needs some self-control and also some control from the side of the teacher. But we recommend to have your learners to study from the e-learning materials in the articulate rice application independently, but then you meet on the group session, and here are the topics, set of topics per each module, repeat each unit, where you can exercise what they have learned, how they can lead a talk, what arguments they have to defend their statements, what kind of statements they can develop and elaborate, and develop this kind of skills in them. So this is the final module, yes. So this is where the materials for teachers is ending. There are some additional sources that we couldn't enter anywhere else inside the material, but they still represent interesting source of information or of examples that could be used. So that's everything about the trainer's guide. The student's guide is very similar, but from the student's perspective we do not have to go through, but you can check yourselves individually as you want. And now we could just go back to the basic presentation, because I think this was the very last slide anyway. Yeah, the very last slide is this. But I want to thank you for your attention, because I really appreciate your interest, or we appreciate your interest and your attention that you paid to us.